welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live, yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Whoo, man, what a heavy day today was, right? I mean, if you had a chance to sit back and listen, like I was at work, I was listening to the memorial service for Representative John Lewis, who is still through former president number 44, the last president we've actually seen in office, if you ask me, delivered that eulogy. He put his spirit all the way in to former President Barack Obama and lifted our spirits up about what this thing is really all about. Like he said, one person from Troy can make a difference in this thing. We all have the power to make the change in this nation that we really want to see. I was kind of down early today, and I kind of maybe even overreacted a little bit at a Trump tweet, you know, with him talking about, well, you know, we can delay the election. You know, how you gonna delay the election, but you can't delay a school opening? But I was really ticked off because bottom line is everybody keeps saying it's unconstitutional. He can't do it. The last time I checked, only Congress can declare war. Only Congress. But we seem to be having armed conflicts all over the place all of the time. So don't tell me what can't actually be done. Don't tell me what can't be done, because there is a way to make that happen if he chooses to. So don't sleep. I understand I might have overreacted a little bit because, you know, it was a distraction from the fact that our GDP took a 32.9% plunge at the same time. But don't sleep. This is the plan all along. We've been talking about it for a long time. Don't sleep. Just because the Constitution says you shouldn't have outside interference in our elections. Constitution says you shouldn't recruit outside influences to help you win an election. Constitution says a lot of things. But please understand, do not sleep. This is the next phase in what they are trying to do. We have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant. Do not sleep. But, I mean, after listening to the eulogy and watching the service and hearing Jennifer Holliday sing and all the wonderful stories about how humble and grounded this man was and how he was willing to, he loved us so much. He was willing to give his life for us. He loved us so much that he was willing to do whatever it took to make sure everybody had the right to vote. Listen, and to all of y'all, his faith was strong, but trust no one believe. His hearse stopped by the Rainbow Square to pay homage to, because he was right there for the LGBTQ plus community. He has been down for everybody. And listening to our president give that eulogy about holding the feet to the fire and making sure that our elections are fair, that there's no voter suppression, I'm ready. I got hyped. I was like, yo, what we got to do next? I'm ready to hit the streets, except I'll be wearing a mask because as you see, right. You know, I do not applaud anybody's demise. And I am so sorry to hear about the passing of Herman Cain. But I think my buddy Jada B down in Bloomington, who's with BLM B-Town, said it best. He was a victim of white supremacy. And let me, I'm going to summarize how she actually explained that. She basically said he fell in line with the ideology of those who had created a system to harm him. And because he fell in line, he thought he was going to get patted on the back for standing up with and denying the science that the people he was following were telling us to do. And he lost his life. And so Jada B actually summed that up and you know, yeah, I said karma's a B, because it is. You know, if you're doing evil might come back to you. But like she said, he was a victim of believing in someone who does not, has not had his interests at heart. And I saw the pictures of all the people that were around him. I hope they have all been tested and they are all safe. But I know I got some trollers on the other side that watch the show. One of y'all's died, dude. One of your high-profile people died, Herman Cain, and we already know that African Americans are more prone to die from this virus than anybody else. Herman Cain died.
Mm-hmm.
Herman Cain died. And I'm so sorry, and my condolences to his family. But listen, don't be a fool, or otherwise you will get killed.
Mm-hmm.
And to Governor Holcomb, who was telling us yesterday that we should not gather in large spaces, I don't hear you talking about vote by mail, because we already know that there are less people volunteering to be poll workers. And because those poll workers are generally seniors and people who are retired, because everybody else is usually at work. So now that we have less people working the polls, that means we'll have less polling places open. That means that we will increase the number of people standing in line and gathering, as you said, at polling spots, increasing the risk of the virus. See, now I know that 45 is talking crazy, but right here in our own state, our governor is not doing what he needs to do to protect us so that we can vote safely. I'm gonna be real direct right now. You tell me what the difference is between John Lewis getting his head cracked open to register to vote so that he can have his constitutional right, and us risking our lives during a pandemic, which we know over 152,000 people have lost their lives in 6 months. What's the difference? I'm going to get killed instantly with a billy club over my head, or I'm going to die a very slow, agonizing, lonely death with this pandemic. GOP, this is on you. Indiana GOP, this is on you. It's time for you to step up and do the right thing. Why should we have to risk our lives? We don't have to. We have the mechanisms and the tools to make sure that every Hoosier who wants to vote by mail can do so and be safe. You want to open schools up, you want to do all these things, but you have not talked about how you plan to keep us safe. And you're mocking us. You're mocking us by saying, nope, we're not even going to talk about mail-in balloting. We're not even going to talk about it. That's all right, though, because we're going to turn out and we are going to vote. And we heard from the greatest president. Mine anyway. I'm just saying, you ain't got to agree with me. Mine anyway. We are going to be ready to go. We're going to show up to the polls. We are going to vote in Dr. Woody Myers. We are going to vote in Linda Lawson. We are going to vote in, as Attorney General, Wines-Apple. Don't play, Jonathan Wines-Apple. Don't play. We coming. We flipping seats in the Senate, and we flipping seats in our state house. And that's why we tuning in to Turn Left, so you can find out about these amazing candidates who are running all over our state. Y'all, let me introduce you to my guests. I'm excited. First up, I have running in House District 65, Miss Paula Staley. Miss Paula, welcome to Turn Left.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
And absolutely. And my second guest, Mr. running in House District 11, is Mr. Keegan Damron. Did I say that right?
Keegan, yep.
Okay, Keegan Damron?
Yep.
Okay, that's what's up. Welcome to the show, Keegan.
Thank you for having me. What's going on, everybody?
And before we get started, if these candidates are saying anything that you like and you want to contribute to their campaign, there are donate links in the description of this show, so that you don't have to go look for it. All you got to do is click on it, donate 5, 10, 15, 150, whatever you want, dollars to their campaign. All right. I know we were kind of talking offline before everybody got there. I'm going to give each of you, before we go into our introductions, talk about what the legacy of John Lewis means to you.
You want me to start?
Go right ahead, Miss Paula.
All right. So I was thinking this afternoon while I was watching, and I watched it from start to finish, his memorial service. And it was so moving. I really thought I wasn't really going to be able to pull it together to be on your show tonight, but he was just such an amazing man his entire life. The strength he had, and the just to stay with it his entire life, and to go through what he went through. I felt like, when I started as a first-time candidate to run for office, I was immediately overwhelmed and wanted to quit. It was, and then I think if I would have just had 1 ounce of that perseverance, and strength that he lived his entire life, and affected so many people, around him. I could just die a happy woman,
Okay.
but yeah, it was just amazing. And I agree with you seeing Obama, President Obama. He's my President Obama too. And every time I see him, I'm like, I want you back. I miss you. Come back.
You sound like the Jackson 5 right there. I want you back. So Keegan, talk about your how you feel about the legacy of Representative John Lewis.
Yeah, I think for myself, it's more of just the way he carried himself. I mean, he cared about the vast majority of people, if not everyone. It didn't matter what your background was. It didn't matter if he shared a common background with you or not. He showed compassion and he carried himself with grace. And it's something that you can't quantify. You can't put that into a person. You can't say, this is what, caused him to be like that. He was just that kind of a person. And just leaving that kind of a legacy where, people from all walks of life can look to him as somebody to look up to, not just, young Black men or just young Black people. It's everyone can look up to him as a model person to want to be like.
And so, even in death, he had given us our marching orders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the New York Times. And it was like,
oh yeah.
So,
That's the great thing about it is that, he never stopped fighting. It was in his blood. It was his calling, and we are all the better for it because he decided to sacrifice a whole lot for all of us. Right? All right, Miss Paula, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Okay. Well, I'm Paula Staley. I'm a wife and a mom and a grandma and a registered nurse. And I worked my entire career, well, the first half of my career in nursing in Indiana and working in different hospitals and medical facilities. And then I was fortunate enough to land a job at Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. Oh. So I worked there for the second half of my career. So I've worked in environmental health and also in the policy office. So I was working there at the time of the passage of the Affordable Care Act and in the policy office. And CDC was charged with a certain number of elements to write guidance, to implement different sections of the law. So I learned a lot about the Affordable Care Act and what it was really designed to do. Unfortunately, it got a little chopped up here and there, with the GOP along the way. But it was really just a real fine piece of legislation. And when we retired and then moved back to Indiana, I was born and raised in Indy, South Side, and I didn't really want to move back to Indianapolis. My husband, when I was a kid, we always used to come down to Brown County in Nashville and camp and hike and, that sort of thing at that time, picnic a lot. And so I had said, early in my career, one day I'm going to have a cabin in Brown County. And so when we retired, then we decided that we would come and buy a cabin. So we did. And my husband and I, and we have a little lab named Rosie. And so when I came back and I started to see what was going on in the State House, and I had worked a lot in maternal and child health, worked a lot on environmental justice issues, and I saw what was going on in the State House and some of the things that really simple things they should have passed, like the pregnancy accommodations bill and that sort of thing. And so I thought, nobody else stepped up down here in District 65. So I'm just one ticked off grandma.
All right. We need some more
to get into politics.
Hey, we need some more ticked off grandmas. We need more ticked off grandmas.
Ticked off grandmas. And so we need a lot more candidates, actually. And so when for example, I took my two of my grandkids up to the Solidarity rally at the State House that they had on State House and the lawn there.
Okay.
And I told the kids, all of the people at the rally were all different, nationalities, races, religions. It was real obvious. And I said to them, that's what it should look like in there, right. Inside the State House. It should look like this, right. And it doesn't, So anyway, that's a little aside there. So that's why I'm running. I'm fighting for healthcare as a human right.
Okay.
And support for all families, and families in the broadest sense of the word, and also for environmental protections. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, and the beginning of the day, there's a reason why Indiana is like a business. I forget what they call it. It's like number one for businesses to locate.
Low taxes.
There's a reason for that. We give them tax credits. Yeah. We allow them to dump whatever, not clean up, payment, minimum wage, jobs. So that's why, and so there's a lot that needs to be done too with worker and supportive workers. But at the end of the day, if we don't address climate change, in its real serious way, nothing else is really going to matter. So anyway, that's why I'm running.
That's what's up. That's a great reason to run. Keegan, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Yeah, my name is Keegan Damron. I grew up on the south side of Griffith. It was actually an unincorporated farm that I grew up on. And so I've gotten to watch throughout my life a rural community turn into a suburban community. I mean, from the time where I was a child, where I remember that our road was a dead end. You couldn't go to the other end of it. And to now where there is, I think, 700 just suburban houses on the opposite side of where there used to be a dead end when I was a kid. Wow. And I've seen, the growth of Indiana. And I think that it's especially Northwest Indiana. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a very big lack of representation for the people of Northwest Indiana, particularly because the rest of Indiana seems to forget that there's this whole urban population up in the top left corner.
Not me.
Yeah, I know you don't. But I feel like in the State House they do, and so mm-hmm. We have a $7.25 minimum wage. I have to work I work in hospital equipment. I fix air pumps and support surfaces. So I have to go over the border into Illinois to make enough money to be able to support myself and to support my family here in Indiana. And it's I know that that's my experience, and I can't imagine how many other people's experience that is. And that's tax dollars that Indiana is missing out on. Yeah. That's just so much infrastructure that we can't build for ourselves because that money is going elsewhere. I think that needs to be addressed very quickly. Same thing with environmental issues and things like that. Growing up on the farm, that was a big thing for me. I was very close to the land that I grew up on. So I feel like a lot of people miss that, and we're starting to grow away from it as a society. Mm-hmm. It's not that great. Yeah, a little bit more about me. I did stand-up comedy before I started this. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
I've done podcasting, video, projects and things like that since I was a kid. Graduate of Lake Central High School. I'm 29 years old, which seems to floor a lot of people when I tell them that I'm running and I'm 29. I'm
great.
I'm sort of in the same vein as yourself, Paula, that there was just no one stepping up in my district. I saw that there was a 3-time incumbent running and no one going to contest him. And I'm just a pissed off worker. I'm ready to step up and do the work that it takes to make this place a little better for everybody. I don't know. I think that that's a thing that we're missing also, as you were saying, as being a business haven for a lot of businesses. A lot of representation in our State House is influenced by that and influenced by those people. I'm not one of those people. Honestly, I'm gonna make as much money if I was just a representative full time as if I was doing what I'm doing now. Like, there's really no difference. I'm not in this for anything but for everyone. I want to help. I want to make things that make the world a better place. And this is the way that I've found I can do that. I mean, through comedy and all of the entertainment venues that I was doing, I realize now that that's what I was trying to do, but I didn't exactly, understand what I could do and what the actual differences I could be making, rather than like the sort of implied ones through culture. Actually put hands on, government and make a difference. And I can't wait to do it.
Absolutely. You guys, I'm all hyped now. Like, I don't know if it's like a Obama hangover or whatever it is, but you guys are like, the energy that we're bringing to this show today is like amazing. Both of you mentioned something that is critical to what I believe, why people should be running for office. And that is to improve the lives of our fellow Hoosiers. We have in Washington right now, the Senate and Mitch McConnell is not really being serious about this coronavirus relief package to the point where they are wanting to cut from $600 extra down to $200. But they also want to put like $1.7 billion into fixing up the FBI building.
Well, we know what that's all about, right?
Oh, of course we do.
The
We
Trump
do.
Hotel.
Right.
Yeah.
We know that. But here's the
Yeah.
deal. Here's like, Trump is one person, right? Trump is just one dude, one orange dude. We have, but when you have people like Mitch McConnell and the 51 Republicans in the Senate, there's where there's some real problems that happen. And when we're trying to say that we want to help people, how do when you guys are having those conversations, and I know we're talking about the Washington and you guys will be in the State House, but when you're having conversations on the phones with constituents and you hear their desperate need, and you hear what Mitch McConnell is doing, what kind of conversations are you having with our constituents who are desperate and in need?
Well, go ahead. You want me to start or?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So in the beginning of the pandemic, of course, everybody was, sheltered in place. So it brought out the need, including the kids, that weren't getting food and basic protection sometimes at school, and counseling and different things that they need at school. And so we immediately went into action here in the district and also in the counties with their in need their groups, their in need groups that they formed to get food, to get the teachers, to get the food to the kids. And we made calls. I made calls to the constituents and asking them, introducing myself as a candidate, but asking them, what they needed, and some of the people were laid off, and some of the stories that I heard were just heartbreaking about rent payments, and that sort of thing, and potential evictions. And for these guys, which I count Holcomb right in with these guys, because whenever he wants to do anything, like the other day, when he wanted to have some sort of penalty for not wearing a mask, then in flies Mike Pence. And then all of a sudden that penalty went away. So I do kind of count him in, with those groups. So, so the fact that they think that $600 is like over and above and will create a disincentive for work, it really only points out the fact that people don't make enough money to live. So we really do need the living wage. That money, instead of going to the billionaires, which we saw on TV yesterday, all four of them, the big tech guys, and how much money they've made since the beginning of this pandemic, but we won't go there. But when they think, we do need that living wage. Instead of the money going to the corporations, the money needs to go to the people, because the people are going to spend it. They're going to spend it on food and clothing and gas for their car and that sort of thing. They're not going to put it in their corporate pockets or give it to their shareholders.
Right.
So that's how we kind of get through this. But overall, we won't get through it unless we can control the pandemic.
I had to lay all my shareholders off. I don't know about y'all. I had to lay mine off.
Yeah.
Keegan, what are you saying to the folks when they're talking to you?
So from all the things that I've been, kind of contacting people with, and then I get a lot of emails on my website, KeeganDamron.com, by the way. From all the information that I get from there, it seems like a lot of people have kind of bought into this idea that basically that somehow profits for the owner class and for those people who would profit off of these, $1.6 trillion stimuluses, that somehow matters more to our economy than the everyday person spending money. Mm-hmm. And what has been effective for me really is to point out to those people that, what's more effective, right? One person spending $1 billion or 200 million people spending 10,000. Right. Yeah. Or even $10 or even $10. Right.
You're right.
But I mean, any amount of money that the greater whole spends is going to affect our economy so much of a higher rate and so much more of an effective rate than a single person can do anything, including all these, job creators that they say that, these people are, which we've already seen 1,000 times before. They will operate at the lowest cost possible in order to make a company profitable. So the idea that they're job creators, it's really like they're kind of job optimizers, right? They try to see how few of people they can have do the most work.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And if you look at the Department of Labor statistics, our country is only continually getting more productive as years go on. But for some reason, the money isn't getting distributed. And it's, this is the major thing with our Congress and Senate. Is like right now we're looking at the way that they're reacting to a pandemic, and we're saying, wow, how terrible is this? But I think the bigger picture here is that they weren't handling things properly beforehand, and now they're trying to play catch up. Mm-hmm. And this has been the biggest thing that I think I've been able to illustrate to people when I'm trying to kind of win them over to the side of, hey, let's support workers rather than supporting owners, because those owners don't like that. Their livelihood's going to be fine. Like they're going to be good. They're going to be good. But the lady down the street who is unemployed and has 2 kids, and what is she going to do? Right? Are we are our legislators saying that we should just, you were making too much money by us giving you a helping hand? Like, that's insane. Like,
it is insane. You're right. Exactly.
If you can admit that someone needs help, right? But then you're saying that the amount of help you're giving them is too much, I think you have the problem, not them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is probably the thing that is just like burning a hole in my soul right now. The idea that if I'm giving you the help, now mind you, these people would be working. They are not on unemployment because they are lazy. Right. They are on unemployment because the federal government mishandled this coronavirus, extended our time at home and our lockdown at home, and now they're struggling. And you know what? And here's the thing: like people are telling you they need these things for food and shelter and medication, and you're saying no. That'll make them lazy. That is the worst opinion that you could have of your fellow human being that you could possibly have, is that somehow or another, just a few crumbs, $600 a week. Because that's crumbs. Y'all know that. I mean, for a lot of people, that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. Exactly. For a lot of people, I don't mean no disrespect.
But yet with the PPP program, they will not disclose who got that money.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And the only reason for that is that they have something to hide.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that, $600 wouldn't be a whole lot for somebody, but what I'm saying is it ain't like you can literally be chilling on the beach. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, these people are struggling. They're and that's what's so and the other part of that is you are in your position because you were supposed to be looking out for my needs.
Right.
You're there
That
making those
that
decisions.
is your job.
That is your job.
But it's not their job right now.
No.
Their job is satisfying corporate interests that give them the money so that they can beat us at the polls, basically. So
I mean, it cuts to the core of conservative ideology, right? They assume that everyone is just an evil person.
Lazy, evil.
Everybody is, poverty is a moral problem. It's not an actual issue. And it's like, no, poverty is a problem that is passed down, not only through generations, but also through hierarchical structures, and most of which are imposed upon us without anybody ever getting consent to take part in.
And the killer part is that same description that you gave about, everybody is evil. When it comes to social issues, everybody's benevolent. Everybody, there's no discrimination. Oh my God, what are you talking about? Someone's not going to treat you bad because you're gay. Someone's not going to treat you bad because you're a Muslim. I mean, so they're talking out of both sides of their neck, and we're like, what? How is this happening?
When did that happen?
But it makes it hard to argue with them, and that's why they do it. Because when they can stand on both sides of a line, they can decide which side they're arguing from when you come at them with an actual established point. Whenever I argue with somebody, that's the thing that it's like they move the goalpost constantly. And you're like, how? But it really just comes down to their underlying ideology. They do not have an established moral code. They have points that they hit, and then whichever one of those points is most important to the conversation they're having, that's the one they're going to get behind. It's everything happens in a vacuum, and nothing is actually all encompassed, which is the problem with majority of right wing politics, if you ask me.
You get no argument from me. Now, both of you have spent some time in either the medical device industry or the medical industry. In fact, Paula, learning that you've been with the CDC was like, that's awesome. That's a whole conversation.
I'm sure they're struggling right now.
Oh, definitely. But our state house, I know Representative Robert Shackelford and some other folks have offered multiple bills to try to, keep the cost of, healthcare down on multiple strains, be it, reducing prescription costs or, itemized listing of what you're getting billed for, Go ahead.
Right. And the itemized bill, the surprise billing thing was really a farce. They took the surprise part out. But healthcare is just one of those things that you're not going to shop around for.
Right.
When you need healthcare, you need to go to a hospital. When you need a doctor, you need to go see a doctor when you're sick. When you need prescription, you should be able to go to get to a pharmacy and get your prescription. Everybody should pay their fair share. And it's a really, really bad idea that we recently discovered to have your health insurance tied to your employment. So I think even the unions, and unions will, argue, we fought hard for these benefits. And gave up salary. Well,
I've heard union folks say
now you don't have to give that salary up.
Well, I've heard
we had universal health care, you can negotiate, in my opinion, for higher salaries and better benefits.
I've heard union people say that's one less thing we would have to argue about.
Yes, exactly. And now, I guess the Farm Bureau is going to come up with because of the farmer, is going to come up with either a self-funded program or their own insurance, for farmers, because farmers can't get in on the ACA. They really struggle because, as you know, farmers are really struggling. And even I know you know that too. And down here, the stress of losing the family farm, and the lower commodity prices, and the higher debt that they have to get into, and the stress of just losing a family farm after, so many generations being in your family, and then you're the one that ends up losing the farm. It's just terrible. And the suicide rate in Indiana with farmers is higher than apparently veterans in Indiana. And so and also we still also have a raging opioid epidemic.
Right.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody even talked about that lately. Dang.
Right.
Yeah. So we can control costs. I mean, with Eli Lilly right in the center of town, and them voting down the cap on insulin was just ridiculous. They wouldn't even notice, that if they did that. That would be a rounding error, in their, and, budget dust.
Keegan, talk about it
for them, but
it's so
no,
crazy.
I won't do it.
Even just in you talking, I'm just hearing things, and it's reminding me of all the things that we're not talking about that are still standing issues that right. that aren't getting the publicity right now that they need to. Like, the 20%. I think it's like a 20% raise in farm foreclosures in the United States in the last 3 or 4 years.
Right. And because of the tariffs that lowered commodity prices, I mean, they're really.
You mean that trade war wasn't good?
The corporations force them to, if they want to continue to farm, force them to buy new equipment, take on all this debt, and then they can pay them whatever they want, which is, of course, with the lowered commodity prices, is not very much.
Right, and then they're constantly controlling the price of a lot of crop already. So it's like, well, we're going to try and
and I think this too, Keegan. There's a lot of pride. Farmers have a lot of pride, and one of the things they're prideful about is that they don't need mental health assistance. Like they consider that a weakness. And so to try to educate them and try to get them to understand that stress is something. Everybody should understand that now. Right. Stress is something we all have, and so anyway, other issues on healthcare.
But that's another thing that a lot of people don't talk about with healthcare is the idea that mental health right now, it's behind a paywall to be able to deal with your mental health. And there are so many people in this country that are not able to get that kind of treatment, which would probably cause a lot less violent crime, a lot less of the gun violence that we're seeing, like a lot of the mass shooting.
A lot less homelessness. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how many of these social issues that we've for years racked our brains over? What's going on? How are these things happening?
Yeah.
How many of those things would be greatly reduced by just the radical idea of giving people a doctor visit when they're sick? Like, I can't believe
I know. And what I tell people is I don't know what the answer is in Indiana. In my view, it would be expanding HIP to 400% of federal poverty level. But other countries have figured this out.
Yeah.
Indiana can do something. We don't have to wait for the federal government, and they'll be knocking it out for a while. They'll probably go with some sort of buy-in option, whatever.
The federal government already kind of cast their vote on how much they care about our health when they decided to pass off COVID handling to all the states individually. So that means that each state individually needs to govern themselves the way that they see fit. And I think Indiana needs to, like you were saying.
So it's also a pay now or pay later thing,
Yeah.
If you could get a lot, being from public health, it's about prevention and early detection. And people will say, well, people that haven't had insurance, as soon as they get it, they're going to go to the doctor. Well, yeah, they should, because they need to be examined to see what conditions they might have, because they've never had the health care before, and so maybe it will cost them just a little bit more upfront. But once you get into that preventive early detection kind of mode, then you're going to save a lot of money. Then people won't wait till they're so sick and go to the emergency room.
And how many more productive years are you going to get out of a person when they're actually well taken care of? And when they're actually, how many, when you could, like you were saying, it's the early detection and prevention. How many people are going to be able to get the healthcare they need and then get better and continue to work? Whereas in our system right now, they get sick, they work for about a year with I think I'll be all right, and then tragically die. That's not okay. I mean, what is it? I think it's 40,000 people die from lack of healthcare in this country every year. That is one person is too many in that case. But 40,000, we let that just happen.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like our elected officials, especially at the State House, are even remotely interested in dealing with what is best for Hoosiers. And that's the part that I struggle with. I know that you guys are both running in very difficult districts. And it's like, okay, wait, you are representing areas that are depressed and struggling. You're representing people who, need an assistance in a lot of different ways, but you are voting against and standing against the people whom you represent, and you're fooling them. Like, you guys are like literally snake oil salesmen to these folk, because you get them focused on gays, guns, and God, when it should be healthcare, public education, infrastructure, and global warming.
Environment. Right.
Well, but then they would be on the wrong side of that argument. That's one of those things. They're picking which arguments they want to have, and we're more than welcome. We're more than welcoming for them to have those arguments. And I think that's an issue. Is that I think as Democrats we need to really take a look at ourselves as when we're having an argument with somebody, making sure that you're staying on track. Do not feed into their narratives. They're going to travel you down, like you were saying, onto the gays, guns, and God arguments. They're going to take you straight into those.
Tax and spend. Yeah.
Are they still saying that? That is so tired. Yeah. That is so tired.
Yeah. It's old. Yeah.
We already, the numbers are in. Over the last 50 years, we know the deficit increases under Republicans. And we know that everybody else does better under Democrats. The numbers are there. The fact that they are spewing that lie. But you know what? Segue. That comes back to, honestly, our education system. It comes back to the fact that we are no longer, especially in the state of Indiana, we are no longer teaching young people to be able to disseminate scientific, at least, information, but we're teaching them to regurgitate information for all these tests that we are taking. And Betsy DeVos is doing everything she can under the sun to defund and privatize education so that the amount of education your kid gets is dependent upon how much money the parent makes. So talk about how we are failing, especially in Indiana. We are failing our young people.
We're the number 50 or lower. Can we go lower?
I think it was the bottom 3. We were
as far as teacher salaries, here, and then wondering why we can't recruit teachers. But Betsy DeVos, although she does have her own agenda as far as the whole private religious aspect of that, when I talk to people, in my opinion, this is all about in Indiana breaking the teachers union and privatizing the schools so that they can lower the salary cost of the teachers by not having them be certified. And as far as the testing is concerned, in my opinion, and from talking to teachers, they don't even use the results. They don't even get the results of those standardized tests until too far into the year. The teachers tell me when the kids come into the classroom, they can size them up pretty quickly and where everybody is, and then put them, a plan in place for them to progress. But all that wasted time of teaching to the test, and not to mention that it's also about, isn't it $80-some million under a contract that they give? I can't remember the name of the company, but
I know McGraw-Hill's getting a whole bunch of it.
Huh?
I know, but McGraw-Hill gets a whole bunch of it.
Yeah. And then that kind of brings me to the education about African American history. When I was growing up on the south side of Indy, and even now, my own grandchildren, they don't know anything about African American history. They know about Rosa Parks, maybe, and of course Martin Luther King one day a year, but that's it.
Hey, I did not prime her. I did not prep her. This is her opinion, and she's bringing it to you live on Turn Left, baby. Come on,
when you don't even know the history, and just from reading, lately, or even the Juneteenth thing. I'm like I said, I'm a ticked off grandma, and I didn't know about it.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the crazy part, and I kind of wrote about it. We are Black folk, and me in particular. I will claim it because I recognize when I had been indoctrinated. I went to North Central High School, one of the best high schools in the city, very well, funded, very well funded, and I had every opportunity in the world. But I too had a whitewashed history, and so as a young Black kid growing up in a predominantly white school, everything that was told to me was that it was white people that did everything. So imagine where my self-esteem was as a Black kid, not seeing the only thing that I ever saw about who we were is that we were fighting oppression. We were only great at trying to beg for our freedom from white folks. So imagine the psychological damage that is caused to whole cultures of Black, brown, Native, Asian people in our state, in our nation, when we don't teach the truth about how America was formed and that only white people did it. All the great people are white people. All the inventors,
Native Americans go, I learned that President Jackson, I think it was Jackson, wasn't it? Really bad. And the Trail of Tears he found them a new home. He found these people a new home. So it was like, they were off to a better place. And it was totally lost on me that it was called the Trail of Tears.
That is the craziest thing I ever heard in my life. And if I hear one more white brother or sister tell me that Africans were better being enslaved in America or Native Americans were better off being put on plantations or in reservations, I am going to scream. And I am going to tell them that their white supremacy is just spewing from their pores, because that is the worst thing you can actually say to somebody is that, you know what? We stripped you of your culture. We stripped you of your heritage. Aren't you happy now? That is the worst thing you can say to me.
Aren't you happy?
I'm sorry. Did I go there?
No, honestly.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, honestly, that is one of those things that was like one of the eye-opening things for me was, I think I was in college. It was my freshman year of college. I had a Black friend. I went to IUN in Gary. So I had a Black friend in one of my classes, and I was talking to him, and I was saying that I was Irish, right? I was making fun of myself for something like that. And he goes, "Man, you're lucky." And I said, "Why is that?" And he goes, "You know where you're from." Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that was like one of the most profound things anybody ever said to me. I was like, oh.
Yeah, because Europeans just say Africa, not recognizing how many different countries there are in Africa.
And that the lines that are drawn as countries in Africa stand no way a reflection of the cultural outlines of Africa. So, I could say I know a person from Ghana, but it doesn't mean that I actually know what that person, believes, what that person practices, what that person, is all about, or what their culture is like. So sorry to interrupt, but that is one of those things.
You're supposed to interrupt. This is an interview about you, Keegan.
I actually think that this time period is white supremacy's last gasp.
Hold on.
Oh man.
That's in my opinion. That's in my opinion.
I'm hoping so.
Because
the ultimate white knuckle.
As soon as Barack Obama became president, right, and then of course that kind of lit the white supremacy flags up, and then now we've got Trump in the White House who's kind of fanning those flames. Now they all know that there's a coming majority minority, right? Mm-hmm. And in not too many years. Mm-mm. So to me, this is white supremacy's last gasp.
The ultimate white knuckle, honey. They hold on for dear life. But here's the other thing.
And it's really stupid.
Here's the other thing that is unique about that, though. So not only, as historians have been demanding that, our white brothers and sisters take the time to learn about who we are and where we come from, we are now able to take the time to learn about who we are and where we come from. So now you have a whole generation. And mind you, the first and second graders are majority minority right now. So they're already in school. They're going to be learning way more about how powerful and wonderful they are. And they will can have positive impact and contribute mightily to the greatness of our nation. So it's not even just, the browning of it. It is the fact that historians are forcing all of us to understand that no one group of people was able to build this nation. Now there's one philosophy.
I was gonna say, it seems like one group kind of did build the country, but physically.
well, you know what I mean? Yeah. But there's this philosophy that those who has the most coins gets to tell the story and gets to say that they're the dominant one. But I'm sorry. And honestly, I the other thing I think is like, it's almost like they're about to grab all their chips and run. Like, the tax cut was like the first big giveaway, and now we're not even going to give you back your money. We're going to keep it all here so we can hoard it all. And they're really going to like try to take their money and run. Now, I don't know where they're going to go. Because
they're just stuffing it in their pockets as fast as they can because they know it's about time.
And you can't take it with you. Why are you even hoarding it? You can't take it with you. You're so, I don't know how esoteric you guys are and how spiritual you are, but you can't take the money with you. But how you
I've never seen anybody be able to do that.
Yeah. Your spirit is going to live on, and how you lived on this earth and how you treated your fellow human is going to resonate for eternity. And I honestly, I don't want that ugly on me. I don't want it.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that we need to be doing better. And, Keegan, I wish, man, I want to see people that care about humans get elected.
Yes.
But
with the voter suppression, it comes back to voter suppression and gerrymandering and dark money. And when people say, why are the Republicans beating us all the time? Well, gerrymandering, dark money. Okay.
Well, gerrymandering happens on both sides because,
Well, it shouldn't.
It should.
We really do need a fair districting law.
And that's one of the major important parts of this election. The 2020 election, the representatives that are elected will be drawing the district lines for this.
And if I was elected and Keegan was elected, if he believes as I do that it should be fair, we would have to fight Democrats for that because they will feel like it's their turn to have their way now.
Well, hopefully, hopefully, I heard this terminology in reference to Democrats twice in one day from two different people about two different issues. I hope we don't become a circle firing squad. We don't want to be that.
Right.
We need to, listen. I try to tell people all the time, like, humans are gonna human, right? So not every Democrat is going to do exactly what we think they should do. And just humans are going to human. They're going to do what they do. Exactly. But when it comes down to policies, that's what you should look at. That's how you should gauge on who you're supporting. How will this candidate improve my life? What is he saying or what is she saying that is going to make my existence in Indiana better? And I just don't hear from the other side.
Yeah. Well, and if I can for a second, just on schools, because we were talking about that. I have the guy I'm running against literally wrote to a teacher in my district a handwritten note on like a return letter that it was something about how charter schools are better because many of the inner city schools are deplorable. It's a handwritten letter. I have a picture of it because some lady posted it on her Facebook and I saved it, and I'm like, this is something that I cannot just let go, and to see that this man is going to vote to not only, disenfranchise. Gary has no public high school. The city of Gary does not have a public high school.
Wait, Roosevelt, West Side, man, all of those are gone?
I'm pretty sure. Last time I looked, if you look up right now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't believe so. Look up for public high school in Gary. I believe that there's 4 charter schools in Gary, and that is it.
Huh.
Right.
Yeah. And then there was. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, and we look at these things and we think, the defunding of schools is going to affect inner city schools more than it's going to affect anybody else. But the thing we overlook is that the rural community schools are overlooked at the exact same rate, and they don't get when we have a problem with compensation for teachers, that affects rural areas far more than it does more of the inner city areas even suburban areas, really. Because at least there's a life to go to when we have these more rural communities. It's like there's not as much opportunity. So if a teacher moves there, they literally just have to go there to teach and hopefully have family in that area. But if they don't, that's that.
And if they're losing students in the rural areas, like they are here in Brown County, it's because of a loss of industry.
Yeah.
There's no place for people to work. So once they can go to any school, then, if they go to Columbus, they're working in Columbus or they're working in Bloomington, then they can't really get to their kids' after school stuff and that sort of thing. So here, if the kid was here, in Brown County schools, so they just move them out because they can.
Okay.
They move them into other areas, and it's really not that the school is poor,
Right.
It's that they lost industry, and that's kind of my philosophy is you got to back up. You got to back up the causes of things.
Wait,
I am what causes these things.
I am on the Gary. Okay, so I'm on the Gary School's website, Gary CSC K-12, and there's only listings for primary schools. No,
I think it's middle school
schools.
too. I think there's a middle school, but other than that, as soon as you get into high school, there is no public. There's no public school.
How did that happen? That is
crazy.
ridiculous.
And so, but it's a result of Indiana being targeted by these groups. To come in. I think it's only half now. We only have half public schools, right? 50% public schools, and the rest are charter voucher.
Well, and
online.
And
then you've got the transparency issues with the $68 million last year that they defrauded us out of. That the legislature decided, well, no, we're not gonna go after that money.
Oh yeah, that to me is theft. But they're not
so
going after it because they received campaign donations. You can follow the money.
Right, exactly.
They have to report that. So they're not going after that because that means they have to give the money back.
Exactly.
They have to give the money back.
They should. That's our tax money.
They don't care about your honey.
I know.
Look how much they give to the ACLU.
I both have a first time candidate, so
the only thing
I could be naive.
When it comes to your tax money, the only thing they care about is how much of it they can get and keep. They're not worried about what you need it for. Yo, Indiana's own Dana Black Turn Left. We are always interviewing. This was a great conversation because the guest just was doing their thing. I got to sit back and enjoy the conversation. Keegan, tell the people where they can find you so they can donate to your campaign, volunteer, and help you get elected.
Yeah, Keegan Damron for District 11 State Representative on Facebook, or KeeganDamron.com is where you can find my website. I have a blog up there as well, so I try to each week post a article, and you guys can email me there and send a donation. Thanks.
And Paula, where can the people find you?
And I'm Paula Staley, 2020.com, and on Facebook also, Paula Staley 2020. And if you can go on there, either one, and let me know if you want to volunteer with the campaign. We'll be doing a lot of phone banking because we're still just all electronic now. We're not going out because I believe that we don't have the pandemic under control in Indiana yet. Sure. But if you want to donate, and I hope you do, then you can do that on my website.
Absolutely. And you guys, again, if you liked, first of all, I like the conversation. These two folks are very knowledgeable about what's happening in rural Indiana. They're very knowledgeable about what's happening in healthcare, and they are really in tune about helping Hoosiers. You guys should click on their links. It's right there in the description about this show. Donate $5, $10, $15 to these candidates because they need it. They got to get mailers out. I don't know about yard signs, but they need to at least send mailers out before the election. So help them do that. Even though they're not out canvassing and handing out lit, they got to get at least a mailer out. And sometimes they got to pay for extra phones, whatever it is. So listen, the issues that we talked about today are issues that we are always talking about. We never stop talking about how we can improve lives in the state of Indiana. And the one way we can do that is to make sure that we are electing people who are looking out for our interests in that state house. And also do not forget, Dr. Woody Myers is on the ballot running for the governor of the state of Indiana. His amazing, awesome running mate, Miss Linda Lawson. I got groupie love for Miss Linda Lawson. She knows I do. And of course, our Attorney General, Jonathan Weinzapfel. I know the Republicans got rid of Curtis Hill. He needed to go, Mr. Grabby. We know we need to get rid of him. But Ty Rakita, come on, y'all. That's going backwards like you've never seen before. And they will continue to spend our tax dollars to take away your health care. They will, if he wins, they will continue to take your tax dollars to take away your health care. Please understand that. Also, before we go, make sure that each and every one of you has filled out your census. Fill out your census form. This is a double whammy year. Not only do we have redistricting that's important, we have our census. So after we redraw the lines, the census will determine how much money those places will get. And trust, no, and believe, when they draw in the lines, they're going to have some insight. So they know what they're doing. Mess them all up by showing up to the polls and filling out your census. Other thing, if you are like me and you don't believe that it is really possible for us to have enough polling places open, and you don't want to stand in long lines to cast your vote because you don't have 8-10 hours to do so, then you need to put in your request for an absentee ballot today. Put your request in for an Barack Obama told us they're trying to mess with the Postal Service. You heard him. I posted about it 3-4 weeks ago. They've been messing with the Postal Service. Do not sleep on that, y'all. Yeah. Make your request today. And if they try to come back to you and tell you that you are not eligible, please make sure that you don't know if you're going to be on quarantine come November, because the numbers are going in the wrong direction. And you don't know if you're going to be on quarantine. So you make sure you ask for your absentee ballot, and you make these people tell you that protecting yourself from a global pandemic is not an excuse. I would like for somebody to tell me that. They don't want no parts of that. They better not even sign nothing where I have their signature. I'm telling you, I will shame you into sending me an absentee ballot.
Yes, exactly.
Indiana's own Dana Black. I want to thank my guest tonight. This was a lively and riveting conversation. I want to thank Representative John Lewis for sprinkling that spirit on us. Keegan. And we will be back again next week, and we are booked all the way out to October 22nd. You already know. We're going to talk to candidates all the way out to election, because this is the most important election of our lives. It has a lot of consequences, and we need each and every one of you to be involved. Find a reason to get involved. Donate to a candidate. Knock on some doors. Well, you can't knock on doors, but make some phone calls. But make sure you go vote more than anything else and fill out your census. All right, Indiana's own Dana Black. Turn left. Peace.